Hey guys, welcome back to Yana Empowers. I know I have been missing for the past 2 weeks. These weeks have been very busy for me, but I'm now back on the grind. Now, in today's video, we'll be speaking on population. And before we get into the video, I just want to share that I've started a GoFundMe for my tertiary education. I'd really appreciate everyone to support and share. If you can't donate, you can always share. There's no problem with that. You can find all the information in the link in the description bar below. Please go have a look. Please to share. I would really appreciate it. Now let's get into the video. Now, you know, I love to start off my videos with some key terms and some definitions of these key terms. So if we're talking about population, we have to talk about death rate. So what is death rate? Simply put, death rate is a measure of the number of deaths in a particular population, which is usually scaled to the size of the population. Usually, deaths per 1,000 people per year. So that is death rate. And if we're talking about death rate, we have to talk about birth rate, right? Now, birth rate is the number of live births per 1,000 of population per year. Now, it says live births because, you know, sometimes you have births, but the babies are not born alive. So it's important to put that in there. So it's a number of people who are born in a population, right? So we have death rates, we have birth rates, just as the name suggests. Amount of people who born, birth, amount of people who died, deaths. Now, we have something called natural increase and natural decrease. So natural increase or decrease is the difference between births and deaths. So it's the difference between the number of people who are born and the number of people who have died. Now, natural increase happens when there are more births than deaths. So it's an increase in population. It's a natural increase. You have more births than you have deaths. Now, what do you think natural decrease is? Simple. When you have more deaths than births, meaning there are more people in the population that are dying, there are more people in the population that are dying versus those that are being born. So you're going to have a natural decrease in population. Now let's just talk some examples. For example, you live in country A, and country A had, let's say, 40 births, but 60 deaths. So there are more deaths than there are births, and say the population is 200 people. And yeah, 60 deaths, 40 births. So that's a natural decrease versus a natural increase. The population is 200 people, you have 100 births, and you only have 5 deaths. So that's a natural increase. Now let's talk infant mortality rate. Now, an infant is considered children anywhere from birth to 1 year old. So it's important to get what an infant is out of the way. So an infant is considered children anywhere from birth to 1 year old. Now, the infant mortality rate is the number of infant deaths for every 1,000 live births. In addition to giving us key information about maternal and infant deaths, the infant mortality rate is an important marker of the overall health of a society. So, an infant, anywhere from being born to 1 year. Now, infant mortality is the amount of infants who dies per 1,000 live births. So, say you have 1,000 live births, right? Now, after 3 weeks, if the baby dies, it's a part of the infant mortality rate. After 6 months, a part of the infant mortality rate. After 11 months, a part of the infant mortality rate. As it goes over a year, it is now part of the death rate. Right? Sometimes the death rate encompasses infant mortality rate. Usually it stands alone, as infant mortality rate stands alone. Now, I have a question for you all. How do you think birth rate, death rate, and infant mortality rate affects population? It's simple. It all goes back to natural increase and natural decrease. Now, if you have more births than deaths, you have more people in your country. You have a higher population. So there are more mouths to feed, there are more persons who need resources, there are more job opportunities that should be put in place, there is need for more health facilities, need for more homes, schools, stuff like that. Food, if I didn't mention that before. Now, if you have more people dying than more people being born, that's a lesser population. Sometimes the country can become underpopulated, so it does not maximize the use of its resources, right? So you have a lot of things that are left undone. You have persons who, no, you don't have persons to fill jobs, I should say. So important jobs that requires persons, some posts can't be filled, certain things cannot get done. So it really does affect the population like that. So some person might say, okay, less people are being born, more people are dying, that's good. Okay, maybe that's good if it's a large population, but if it's an average size population and more people are dying than are being born, then you're going to have some posts unfilled, some things that requires people to get done not getting done because there's no one to get it done. Okay, I hope you understand what I was saying. So that's really how it affects population: natural increase, natural decrease, and all that in between. All right, so now what, there's a map here and it says, let's examine this map. So we're going to do that right now. Now this map shows the population of the Caribbean. So this map shows the population of the Caribbean. All right, now let us look at the key first. So the key says people per square kilometer. So this is the amount of persons that are living per square kilometer. All right, now let's just look at the countries in the Greater Antilles first. So let's look at Cuba. Now we see some areas of Cuba. If we're looking at our key, some areas of Cuba that are fewer than 5 people living per square kilometer. Then we have some areas in Cuba where there is more than 100 persons living per square kilometer. So what does that tell you about the area? The places where there are more than 100 people may be overpopulated, right? Because it's people per square kilometer. Places where there are fewer than 5 may be a bit underpopulated. We can try look at 25 to 50, 50 to 100 being an average size of people living per square kilometer. But on a whole though, if we look at Cuba, it is not that overpopulated. It is very diverse. Persons are, wouldn't say equally distributed, but persons aren't hovered in one area. All right, I hope you guys are seeing that. Now let us look at San Juan. All right, so that's San Juan, so that's Puerto Rico. And if we look there, we're seeing that there are more than 100 persons per square kilometer for majority of Puerto Rico. We have a few areas where there is, I believe that's 5 to 25 persons per square kilometer. So there we see that there is majority of people scattered all over Puerto Rico, more than 100 people per square kilometer all over Puerto Rico. That's what I'm seeing, right? You have a few areas where there is, I think that's 5 to 25, or if I'm mistaken, that may look like 25 to 50 people per square kilometer. Now let's look at Haiti and Dominican Republic. All right, now we see Haiti. From we look at Haiti, we can say, okay, Haiti has a lot of people living per square kilometer. Look at Haiti, especially around Port-au-Prince side, or where that arrow is. That's a lot of people living per square kilometer, more than 100. We can hardly find any pale orange or yellow spaces compared to Dominican Republic, where we see that there's only one area that's really concentrated with more than 100 persons per square kilometer, versus the rest of Dominican Republic, where it is 5 to 25 people per square kilometer. All right, so I hope you guys are seeing that. So we can say that Haiti is more populated or heavily populated compared to Dominican Republic. All right, if we look at Jamaica, we see in the Kingston area toward the south, we see there are a lot of people there, so it's more than 100 people per square kilometer. But towards the north, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, we're seeing around 5 to 25 or 25 to 50 people per square kilometer. So we're not that overpopulated, only certain areas. All right, then you have the lesser Antilles. You can't really see them too good, but you know, from looking, you can see that there's not a lot of red spaces there. I don't see any at all. As a matter of fact, it's mostly looking 5 to 25 to me. 5 to 25 people per square kilometer. So we know that there isn't a lot of people concentrated there. Now, let's just read some of the annotations. It says Barbados has the region's highest population density with over 1,600 people per square mile. All right, so it's letting you know that Barbados has the region's highest population density with over 1,600 people per square mile. But the thing with Barbados is it's a very small island. Barbados is, I believe, less than the size of Portmore, if I'm not mistaken. So even though it says that, how many square miles are there in Barbados compared to Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti? It's a very small island. So don't let that mislead you. Or, okay, Barbados is heavily populated. Not really. You know, it's just very small. So you have to take into consideration the size of the island as well. All right, so let us identify some countries in the Caribbean and their population. Before that, we're going to state some of the facts first. Now, the current population of the Caribbean is 43,719,679 as of Sunday, June 13, 2021. June 13, June 13, 2021, based on the latest United Nations estimates. All right, June 13 was like a couple days ago, and they were call it 44 million persons, or 43.7 million persons living in the Caribbean. All right, that's not bad. Now, Caribbean population is equivalent to 0.56% of the total world population. We're not even 1% of the total world population. We have 43.7 million people living in the Caribbean, and we are not even 1% of the total world population. Can you imagine that? Right? What does that tell you? There are a lot of people living in the world. Now, Caribbean ranks number 3 in Latin America and the Caribbean among sub-regions ranked by population. The population density in the Caribbean is 193 per kilometer squared, or 499 people per miles squared. The total land area is 225,996 kilometers squared, translating to 87,258 square miles. Now, 74% of the population is urban. That says a lot. 74.1% of the population is urban. And that's 32.3 million people. And there are 43.7 million people living in the Caribbean. So majority of the population is urban, and that also shows you that majority of the urban areas in the countries of the Caribbean are heavily populated. Now that says a lot. Persons are moving to urban areas. Persons are concentrated in urban areas. Now the median age in the Caribbean is 31.9 years. Okay, let's keep it pushing now. All right, on to the next slide. Now, let us identify the populations of certain islands in the Caribbean. So we're going to start off from the highest population to the lowest population. Not all islands are here. I think I did not put about 3 or 4, but they are towards the lower population side. Now let's start off with Haiti. So if we're talking population, we have to tell the amount of people living in each country. So Haiti, we have 11,402,528 people living in Haiti. That's a lot of people, and that's the most populated country in the Caribbean, followed by Cuba with 11 million. So it's still a lot. But what do we see with Haiti compared to Cuba? Haiti is more concentrated versus Cuba. Now, and let's also state that Cuba is the largest country in the Caribbean, so there's more space for people to live compared to Haiti. Alright? Remember, always include the size of a country before comparing it with another country. Now, Cuba is 11 million, a lot of people, you know. Then you have Dominican Republic with 10 million people. As I've said before, we realized we didn't see a lot of red concentration in Dominican Republic compared to Haiti. Dominican Republic is larger than Haiti. Okay? Then you have Jamaica. So we see that huge fall from 10 million down to 2 million. Right? That's a large decrease. That's a decrease of about 7 million or around that. So we see Jamaica with 2,961,167 people. Alright? Then followed by Puerto Rico. Same 2 million, Trinidad and Tobago. There's another fall again. We see 1 million people, or 1.4 million people. Then we have a huge fall again with the Guadeloupe, 400,000. So we're out of the millions now, we're in the hundred thousands. And we realize that it's a low 100,000. It's below 500. It's now 400,000. And before we were at a million. So we see that drop again. Then we see Bahamas with 393,000, right? Then we have Martinique, still in the 300s, and we have Barbados with only 287,000 people. And Barbados has 287,000, and Jamaica has 2.96 million people. All right? So you see where I was comparing, said Barbados could be the size of Portmore. Now you have St. Lucia. We see another drop again with 183 people, and it keeps on going on like that. And now we're in the 90,000s with Antigua and Barbuda with 97,000 people. Now after Dominica, we see another drop, right? And now we're at Turks and Caicos, and Turks and Caicos only have 38,000 people. That's a huge drop right there. All right. Now we see another drop again to Montserrat with only 4,000 people. So we see Montserrat has 4,000 people, and that's where it ends. All right. So this is the lowest population size in the Caribbean. Montserrat with 4,000. Let's compare that to the largest in the Caribbean. Haiti, 11 million. But then remember what we should always take into consideration: the size of the country. Montserrat is very small. Haiti is much larger than Montserrat. Of course, Haiti is in the Great Antilles. But it just goes to say that, you know, population really does vary. Montserrat could be that small and still have a lot of people. It could be an overpopulated country. Maybe for its size, I don't believe for its size 4,000 is considered overpopulation. I don't think so. However, we must always take size into the consideration for the 100th time, because it is very important. Now that wraps up our video on population. Really hope you learned a lot and you also understand size, population of these countries in the Caribbean. It's very important for you to know. It allows you to understand general aspects, general, questions. You can think about certain things, and also allows you to get a good comparison of what's really going on in the Caribbean. All right. Also hope you understand death rate, birth rate, infant mortality rate, natural increase, natural decrease. Okay, and you also know how to evaluate and understand a map that shows the population in the Caribbean, usually represented by population density. This is the end of the video. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to check out my GoFundMe in my description below. I really appreciate it, and if you can't donate, don't forget to share. Really appreciate you all. I know I have exams coming up for all of July, So, and videos may vary a bit. Please look out for that, because I will be crammed with exams, but I will try my best to execute a video every week for you guys. Really appreciate you all. See you in the next video. Bye.